It's Celtics, it's Magic. It's a crossover preview with the Locked On Magic podcast. Do the Magic have a chance? What are their strengths and weaknesses? What are Boston's strengths against the Magic? And our predictions right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Yup. Beantown, be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Back to back, if I say it, it's stamp. Locked on number 19, the best one, the next one. Juice loose in your pool now for the next run. It's the C's, who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis, recap the madness. Every game, every practice. Best daily pod, no cap like Brad Beckett. Clutch like Drew to KP, tap in daily. Prime time, dapping G White on the sideline. Raining Jace, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I get you covered every day, Monday through Friday. Bonus podcasts when they play on weekends, whenever I need to get you more podcasting. I am not afraid to go 7 days a week, 14 days in a row. I've done it before. I'll do it again, especially now that the playoffs are here. So thank you for subscribing wherever you get your podcast, watching the show on YouTube, getting into that comment section, and sharing your thoughts with me, John Karalis. I am a beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've been covering this team for almost 20 years. I've written a couple of books about them, so I've got some deep inside knowledge about the Celtics. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of tickets to whatever you want. Today's show is a crossover episode. I got Philip Rossman-Reich of Locked On Magic. We're getting into the strengths and weaknesses of both teams. We're getting into predictions. This is the strength of this network to get you an in-depth preview of this series. So let's get right to it. All right, here we are. This is fun, man. Philip Rossman-Reich, Locked On Magic. I always enjoy doing a podcast with you. We haven't had a ton of opportunity to do podcasts together, but now here we are meeting in the playoffs. It's going to be fun. First and foremost, I do think this is going to be fun.
If you like 90s basketball, yes, this could be very, very fun. Everyone says they want 90s basketball, and then they get it and they're like, what is this? And it's just like, that's what the 90s were like. No, I really think this is going to be a fascinating series. I've long posited, and maybe you can confirm or deny this, of all the play-in teams, the Magic are the one team that Boston and Cleveland were like, we don't want to see them. Like, please implode. Don't get in there. Don't get in there. The Magic probably won't win this series, but you're going to come out with a few bruises. And I think that's something that this team is really good at. And who knows, this is, the Magic aren't going anywhere. They had a down year. This could be a potential preview for a series for years to come.
So I have been high on the Magic. I've liked them for the past 2-3 seasons, and for various reasons, it hasn't quite worked out the way anybody thought it would. Obviously, this year derailed by injuries, and it's, you lose Suggs, you lose Mo Wagner, who,
Celtics legend.
Yeah, that's right. Former Celtics legend and like now notorious Celtics killer. He could average 8 points a season. Somehow he's dropping 32 on the Celtics. But those are key guys that were obviously Suggs is a huge part of what you're trying to do. And then Banchero for a while. And then, you got everybody got an oblique injury. So this isn't the Magic team that we thought it was going to be, but damn it, if you aren't coming together a little bit at the right time and playing to your DNA, which as we look at Orlando's strengths, this whole first segment, strengths and weaknesses, that DNA is that physical. You said 90s basketball. They will really beat you up defensively. They're the second best defense in the league this year, despite all of that other stuff. It's going to be, the Celtics are known as an offensive team. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough one for the Celtics.
Yeah, and look, anything you talk about with the Magic has to start with that defense. The Magic very much subscribe to the theory that the refs can't call everything, and in the playoffs especially, you expect a little bit of leeway and a little bit of physical leeway. So it's tough to crack this Magic defense. They have a ton of length. They have buy-in. That's the first thing. Any good defensive team buys into what they're doing. They trust what they're doing. They have versatility and length. Wendell Carter is comfortable guarding perimeter players. They'll bring Jonathan Isaac in as their backup center right now. You know, even without Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is still an excellent perimeter defender. Franz Wagner typically takes the best perimeter player. Like, it would not shock me if he's got the call on Jayson Tatum. Certainly they'll feel comfortable with him on Jaylen Brown, despite being 6'10", a little bit bigger. They are not afraid about really any, maybe outside Paolo. Paolo, they'll probably still hide, but even Paolo will have his defensive moments. Everybody is bought in. They're going to play physical. They're going to hit you. They're going to rake you. They're going to try and swipe at the ball. They're all about just surrounding you with arms, length, and pressure, and seeing what you can do with that.
The Celtics, 2 of their 5 lowest volume 3-point nights came against the Orlando Magic, including their lowest. 2 of their 4
they led the league in 3-point field goal attempts per game allowed. Like,
that's right.
A big part of it.
Fewest allowed, fewest made. Even though the percentage was like, look, it's like 21st. It's like, not, you can shoot a good percentage if you get them. But the Celtics even shot a poor percentage. Like, 2 of their 4 worst shooting percentage nights. One was that weird one just here at the end of the season, but still,
we could throw that game out. Like, that game didn't happen.
Still, but it's still, those were good shooters. The Celtics still put good shooters on the floor, and somehow in Orlando, the shots were not falling. So, if I'm looking at it from a concern standpoint of like, okay, what's not going to go particularly well for the Celtics? My biggest fear playing into this Orlando strength is Orlando's going to suck the ball handlers into the paint, and they're going to cut off those kick out opportunities. And it's just going to be 2-point battle versus 2-point battle. And I still think the Celtics are better in that, but the strength of the Orlando Magic is let's muck it up. And you probably, I mean, nobody wants this, but a 92-88 final score, you just put that up there in this series, and you're like, ooh, did Orlando win that game?
Yeah, and I think that's how. I mean, look, and Boston is also a low pace team. They a low possession count team, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Orlando is very, very comfortable playing on few possessions. They want few possessions. That means their defense is really digging into you. It means that you're not getting up a ton of shots. We'll talk about weaknesses here, but a big weakness is going to be the math question and the math problem.
That's right. That
this series presents. But Orlando's defense is just all about, making you question your decisions. Like there's a guy, Jonathan Isaac has 6'11" with, arms that go forever, closing out at you. Are you going to attack that? They'll switch. So your screening game does nothing. You have to kind of go to an ISO game. And I'm sure as your listeners kind of understand that that's when the Celtics sometimes bog down, is when they have to go to that pure ISO game and kind of play into Orlando's hands, because they, even without Suggs, they do have good individual defenders. They're going to make Boston work for everything that they can get. And so if Orlando, like, to me, the biggest key for Orlando is they've got to turn this into a half-court series. Like, every game has to be a half-court slog. And to your point, Boston still is the favorite in that kind of a game. Mm-hmm. But the Magic have a chance if they can make it their defense versus your offense. Like, that is their best chance to win this thing.
That's right. And so, look, this is the 2-7 matchup. And we're not – I don't want to make it be – I don't want to end the analysis as Boston's the champs. They're supposed to be the champs again. And thank you, Orlando, for playing. You're going to get swept. Because Orlando could get swept, or it could be a tough series. No one, I don't think, like all the Orlando Magic fans. Okay, I shouldn't say all, because there are plenty in my mentions.
I mean, look,
that will
the
say
realistic ones know the deal here.
We know, right? We know.
We haven't gotten to the weakness and what's really going to decide the series.
And and this is the thing, right? Watching Orlando go into a complete funk against Atlanta in that third quarter, right? Atlanta's not exactly a stout defensive team. They get some good defensive players. I mean, I don't want to sell them short, but I mean, Trae Young is obviously attackable, but to watch you put up an 18-point third quarter, it's like, that entire 22-point, you lost 19 points of the 22-point lead. If that happens against the Celtics, you're losing a whole lot more than 19 points.
You could be up 22 on the Celtics and have the third quarter the Magic had Tuesday night, and you're down 25. Like that's that. And honestly, that exact thing happened in a January game in Toronto. Orlando like raced out, hit a bunch of threes, like more threes than they normally make, which isn't very many, and took a 20-point lead. Then their offense just hit this wall, and this is against Toronto, mind you.
Yeah,
hit this wall, and the Raptors ended up winning the game by 15. Like the biggest weakness for the Magic is they're going to have in any given game a 4 to 5 minute lull where they just can't score. It could be open shots, it could be defense ratchets up. They're just going to have these long stretches where they struggle to score, where the points just don't come easy for them. And every key Magic game that they play is all about, okay, how can they limit the damage in those moments? How short can they make those moments? And can their defense stand up? And this is where I think Boston is going to have such a huge advantage, because Boston's going to punish you if you don't keep scoring. Like it's that simple. Like if the Magic are missing shots and letting Boston get out in transition, that's where the Magic are in the biggest trouble in this series.
Because the Celtics are going to bury you with the trailing threes.
Yes.
And this is we've seen it so many times with the Celtics when they've given up a bunch of three-pointers, a little out of character. If you're not missing, and Joe Mazzulla is so great at this when he talks about, like, we all on the outside, like or he'll say you guys, you talk about offense and defense like it's football, like it's two separate teams. Yep. It's all one big infinity loop. Like it's just one leads to the other and the other leads to the other. And if you are missing shots, and this is where, the Celtics could seriously lose 3 quarters and win by 20.
Yep.
And that's not out of the question, because not only like you guys got killed by Trae Young floaters in that third quarter. It's not going to be Trae Young float. It's not going to be floaters. It's going to be Derek White from 3. It's going to be Porzingis from 3, Holiday from 3. And
the Hawks shot 4 for the stat sheet's on the other side of my table here, but the Hawks made only 4 3-pointers in the game. They missed a lot of threes. And you talk to, like, we'll get to the math problem here probably in the next segment. All the Atlanta writers, like our good friend Brad Rowland from Locked On Hawks, essentially said, if the Hawks lose the 3-point battle, they have no shot at winning this game. And the Magic beat them in the 3-point battle. They had 11 threes. Atlanta had 4. That's not going to happen against Boston. There's the Magic. Let's put the elephant in the room. The Magic were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league this year, 32%, something like that for the season. In the last 18 games, when the Magic really kind of turned their season around, they went 12-6 over their last 18 games to win the division, get to 41 wins. They shot 35%, which is 20th in the league, but for this team was like manna from heaven. It was like, oh, we can actually make threes now. Whoa, what's going on? Against Boston, you got to limit their threes, which the Magic should be pretty good at. But to that other point, Orlando can be a very high turnover team. They've been better about it since the All-Star break, but every turnover they make, every live ball turnover they make, certainly every missed 3 that turns into a fast break, that's going to be a Celtics 3. And that's going to be, I think, where the battle line in this series is drawn, is who's controlling the tempo and how are both teams getting their shots. If Boston's getting their shots in transitions, it's going to look very much like that January game when the Magic just got absolutely worked. And that's the potential that this series has, and that there's going to be a game in this series where Boston wins by 30. It just feels inevitable. The question is, are the Magic going to have a game like they had in December where they're able to slow things down and able to kind of make those plays down the stretch and keep it close and rely on their defense to get stops to help them steal a game here or there? And that's going to be, I think, the big uphill battle for them.
Let's get into the Celtics' strengths that play into all of this stuff, because the Celtics have some strengths that, if everything is on point, could change some of this calculus. We'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show brought to you by Skims. I am wearing my Skims right now because they are unbelievably comfortable. Yeah, they make them for men now. My wife, huge Skims patron. And so when she heard they were making for men, she told me, she's like, right away, you're gonna love them. I know you're gonna love them. And it's true. I know we're all guys here. Most of us are guys, and very easy for us to go to one of the big box stores and get like a thing of 24 and be good. Spend a little extra money, I think, on the Skims. Super comfortable, perfect for an active lifestyle. They move with you. They don't lose their shape. They stay in place all day. When you're working out, they don't go places that you don't want them to be, and you have to be like kind of clandestine trying to get them back out in the middle of a workout. No, they stay where they're supposed to go. Lightweight material. They feel amazing. It almost feels like you're wearing nothing at all. Shop Skims men's at skims.com/LockedOnNBA. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA, or at Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show, either Locked On Celtics or Locked On Magic, and they will know in that drop-down menu, they will know that we sent you there. Today's show also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of a playoff game. You guys are going to love it in Orlando. And every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric. And with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it easy, fast to get playoff tickets, even in high demand times. Prices actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Last-minute deals are like buying in, you can buy those for comedy, theater, anything like that, all in pricing. You toggle that on. It means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay, and they show you the view from your seat right in the app. It's great. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. Thank you, everybody, for making our shows Locked On Celtics, Locked On Magic your first listen every day. We got newsletters. You can win. Have you seen these prizes we're giving away? Well, the $2,500 Best Buy gift card, a $300 Game Time gift card, or a $200 Fanatics gift card just for subscribing to one of our newsletters. Go to LockedOnDaily.com, click on our logos that are there. If you're a Magic fan, if you're a Celtics fan, click on that and sign up. You'll see the link right there. You got until April 30th to be entered automatically when you sign up. There's a link in the description, so go check that out. Celtics strengths are many.
Where do we want to start? You get to pick. We don't have time in this segment to get to all the Celtic strengths.
So I'm going to start with Jayson Tatum and his ability since the All-Star break to manipulate defenses. He's averaged 7+ assists a game since the break. He's normally been a 5 or 6 assist guy. 5 point something is generally where he's landed. To get up over 7, that extra 2 might not seem like a lot, but it is. It takes a guy like Tatum from like a 26, 5 and 5 night to all of a sudden he's getting up like 30, 39 and 9. And like, if he's doing 39 and 9, then I'm sorry, Orlando, but
yeah,
you got no shot if Tatum's out there nearly averaging a triple-double in this series. And I never would predict that in the past, but I don't think it's out of the question now. So when you talk about Orlando wants to make this a half-court game, and you want to dare the Celtics ball handlers with maybe drop coverage or switches to isolate or whatever it is, Tatum himself, even now with Jaylen with the knee issue, Tatum, if he can still manipulate the defense, and whether it's making shots or setting guys up, I think Kristaps Porzingis and his shooting is going to be a big deal. And I think that pick and roll is going to be huge. That could be where Tatum gets 4 or 5 assists alone. If Tatum's doing that, then that means the Magic defense is getting picked apart.
Yeah. And like everyone's been focused on the top end of the MVP conversation because Shea and Jokic have kind of, maybe your viewers disagree with, maybe your listeners disagree with this, and I'm setting alarm bells off, but Shea and Jokic have had really good years.
No, I think everybody understands that. Yes.
Tatum has never gotten the MVP love that he probably deserves.
Oh, well, now every one of my listeners loves you.
Yeah. No, he hasn't. Like, he's been the best player on a championship level team. Those guys usually get attention. He's taken his game up to another level. To me, like, there's no doubt he should be third in MVP voting. I think that's what I put in my last MVP straw poll with Tim Bontemps. If it weren't for superhuman seasons from Shea and Jokic, we would be talking about Jayson Tatum being an MVP, because he is a very good player who won a championship, didn't rest on any of his laurels, came back with a chip on his shoulder, whether anyone wants to admit that or not, and has been even better this year. And obviously, like, you know, Magic fans think they have someone kind of in the mold of Jayson Tatum in Paolo Banchero. Paolo and Jayson work out together in the summer. They're both Duke guys. There's a lot of mutual admiration. I'm sure there will be a very long hug and talk between the two after the series ends, one way or the other. Jayson Tatum has all the tools to use all those skills that he's developed and that he has, you know, because of the shooting around him, because of that. And at that stage, it becomes about a star player deciding, how am I going to attack? When am I going to attack? And how I'm going to set my teammates up for success. And this is something that you gain over years, over playoff scars, over, you know, missteps. You gain all this through experience. And I think what's really scary about the Celtics this year is, obviously they were so dominant last year. What's scary about the Celtics is, despite being second this year instead of first, they are probably better than they were last year. They are at least at a playoff level scarier because of how certain they are of who they are.
Yeah. And
how much in control Jayson Tatum is. This is not, you know, I mentioned the Magic have to get the Celtics to play to their worst habits. And that's that kind of ISO game, maybe settling for, you know, one pass threes or dribble pull up threes instead of, you know, what you don't want to do is Tatum gets to the elbow. And I'm sure this is a stat too. Those assists don't count like secondary assists or drive assists, where Tatum initiates the action, gets in the paint, draws a guy a step too far, kicks it to the corner to like a Derek White. Derek White sees the closeout coming, whips it to the next guy. He whips it to the next guy, and then maybe even whips it back to Jayson Tatum for 3.
That's
putting you in rotation is how the Celtics kill you.
Yeah.
And it all starts with the way Tatum controls the game with his tempo and his ability to attack off the dribble and pull up and shoot. You have to defend Tatum at all 3 levels.
So the difference, my last point about Tatum before we move on, I think the difference with Tatum that Magic fans might notice is, in the past, Tatum would kind of like drive and then make the read. Okay, I'm driving to score. Oh, they're doing this. I'm going to do something else. Now Tatum is setting people up. It is much more of a manipulation. It's, I've got this guy down below the free throw line or down below the 3-point line. I'm going to, like, if you're a big in drop against the Celtics, and Tatum is very good at kind of like, he's developed like this little head and shoulder, just a little hesitation. Like, I'm going to bring it up, you know, like overhand crossover. And like, as soon as you're big, he did a great job describing this on NBC Sports Boston the other day. As soon as you're big, just raises his hips a little bit. He's like picking up those little body language things. He's like, whoa, oh, bam, overhand crossover, boom, I'm in the lane. Now it's a 4-on-3, and and that's the Celtics thing. It's always the 4-on-3s, the 2-on-1s, developing those things. And Tatum is so willing to say, I am going to give this up, and we're going to decimate your defense And it's less Tatum trying to do things and then passing out of necessity. It's more he has a purpose and he's passing because that's part of the purpose. And that's the read the defense has shown him. And that I think is going to be the big thing. Geez, we should probably continue this. You're right. We didn't have a whole lot of time to talk about all this. There are weaknesses.
There's a lot of strengths of the Celtics. We got to talk about the 3-point shooting difference because that's going to be the factor of whether any game in the series is close.
I think it's fair to say, like, we know the 3-point shooting. We know Kristaps Porzingis is going to stand like 30 feet away and shoot. Like, I'll touch on that just for a second when we come back. And we can get into we won't take a lot of time with the series prediction.
Yeah.
I kind of think we kind of know, no offense, but like, I think we all.
None taken.
Okay. We'll be right back with that. Today's show is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. These guys right here. All right. Did you know Fire TV is also an Xbox? That's pretty cool. You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with the Fire TV Stick 4K device. No console required. Grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. Gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. I'm about to start traveling a lot for the playoffs. I'm an old man, but a little bit. I still got a little bit of that gamer in me somewhere. This Fire TV stick is going to be a lot easier than packing up a whole console and taking that to Orlando. So you can play the high quality Xbox games at a fraction of the cost of a console. And if you do have a console, the Fire TV Stick 4K device is more affordable and easier to travel with. You can take it for your kids or the kid in you. So get on over there to Amazon.com /Fire TV Locked On. Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. All right, that's enough of the hat. I do appreciate our good friends over Amazon Fire TV, but let's wrap this sucker up here. Weaknesses for the Celtics and the things like that play into the strengths of the Orlando Magic. When number one was that there's not many. No, it has to be what Orlando has to depend on here is some sort of mental lapse here. The Celtics do have to be complicit in their own demise here if the Orlando Magic are going to have a chance. And the number one way that's going to present itself is an offensive rebound, which the Magic love to do. I think sometimes the best Orlando offense is, you know what, just shoot and crash, because we can't develop. Shooting and crashing is the best way to get your hands back on the ball and get a better shot. And the Celtics are a good rebounding team. They do not typically give up a lot of offensive rebounds, but in their losses, they give up a ton. And so if you can see, if the Orlando Magic are getting on that offensive glass early, that right away is the first tell of, okay, the Celtics aren't exactly fully locked in. They can get locked in, but to me, one of my biggest fears, if I have a fear, is crashing the offensive board, big second chance points disparity. And then because of that, the Celtics overreacting and leaving Cole Anthony, Anthony Black, those guys open, and they get hot like they did in that play-in game. It's hard to turn off the water. Those guys, you know, you might say we're going to let them shoot, but I don't want a Caleb Martin situation here. And it's very easy to get Caleb Martin, especially like Cole Anthony, because all of a sudden when he sees one go down and he gets fiery and he starts talking, and you're like, oh God, here it comes. He's going to hit 4 in a row or something. And that's the type of run that, okay, if it happens early and Orlando comes out hot, you're like, okay, cool, no problem. There's 3 more quarters. But if you're up 18 going into the 4th and something like that happens, you're like, oh crap. You know, you've let up. They've got 3 putbacks and 2 Cole Anthony 3-pointers, and here we go. It's a game. And that game, that's not going to be easy to shut off. And that's where if I have a fear, that's it.
Yeah, it's something Jamal Mosley's talked a lot about over the last few weeks for the Magic. It's about the possession game. Like Orlando has to win more possessions. They have to get those 50-50 balls. So that's offensive rebounds, that's creating and preventing turnovers, getting out in transition, like controlling the tempo. When they want to run, they're going to run. And then it's about kind of finding mismatches. And I really think a lot of this series, and again, the Celtics have an advantage even when the Magic get their defense set. I think at best the two teams are going to break even there, and that means the rest of the series is going to be determined on, okay, Orlando turned the ball over, Boston's out in transition. Is Boston going to hit that three? Probably, 40, 50% of the time. Yeah, absolutely. They're going to. If Orlando takes a three or has a game where they shoot a lot of threes, if Orlando's putting up 35 plus threes or nearly 40 threes, that tells me the offense isn't moving. And that means there's going to be a lot of long rebounds and a lot of opportunities for the Celtics to get down the floor, catch the Magic before they can get set, and take advantage of miscommunication. I think the Magic's best chance to compete in this series is to force turnovers, which Boston doesn't turn the ball over a ton.
Yeah,
and try and find ways to steal points and steal possession. So second chance points off turnovers. The Magic have to win these categories to have a chance, because set defense versus set defense, the Magic's offense is going to struggle. That's just going to be the reality. Orlando, they might have a nice hot run. Maybe Paolo is hitting a bunch of shots. Boston may try to defend him one-on-one to start with because they have faith in Tatum, or they have faith in whoever they end up putting on Paolo, or same thing with Franz. They got to force Boston to change their defense on them, but then they got to count on those two guys carrying the load. Like what we saw Tuesday night is not typical for the Magic. The Magic are not going to win games in this series unless Paolo and Franz are scoring 60 plus points combined. That's just the reality. We've danced around it, but a big part of the series is the math problem. The Magic cannot get beat by 10 threes in the game. If Boston hits 15 threes in Orlando, that's usually pretty good defense. There's always a chance Orlando only hits 8. If it's going to be 15 threes, it's got to be like 15 to 12. They got to be within range of that. And if they get loose defensively and the Celtics start hitting a ton of threes, there's going to be a 30-point game. There's going to be a 30-point Celtics win in there somewhere. It's just the math says it's going to happen. And so obviously it's a best of 7. There's 4 of these 7 games, but Orlando's got a big uphill climb to make in any scenario.
And this is where as I get into the prediction, this is the Joe Mazzulla approach to a series where I'm going to say Celtics in 5, and one of the Orlando win could come in game 1. It could come in game 2. They could do it in Boston, because the Celtics, first of all, lost a couple of those games last season in that big run where they only lost a few. Those losses were at home, except for the one in the finals. So it wouldn't surprise me. But Joe Mazzulla's approach is, okay, yeah, that's fine. He could listen to everything I just said and be like, yeah, that's great. Cole Anthony and Anthony Black and blah, 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 blah. And the Magic win a game. Are they going to do it 4 times? No. So maybe they do it once. Maybe they do it twice. And in a, oh my God, the sunspots have hit Florida and the aura has shifted and they've done it thrice. Are they going to do it 4 times?
The tsunami of a season's worth of missed shots finally
all of a sudden. It is not impossible to say that the Celtics do get Caleb Martin in this, but I think the Celtics approach, especially since the All-Star break, has been too professional for them to have that many lulls.
And I would say this, while the Magic have done well against the Celtics defensively in the past, they tend to struggle with 5-out defenses because they then cannot commit to defending the paint. The paint is a little bit more open. And when you face a team like Boston, the trade-off you have to make is, am I willing to trade shots in the paint, 2 points, to give up to defend the 3-point line? And that's the pressure they put you under. And Orlando is typically very good at defending the paint, keeping those points in the paint kind of low, you know, getting you in the paint and kind of trapping you. And Boston, you know, may make mistakes. They may go through stretch where they make mistakes, but they're also going to have a lot of opportunities to get open threes. And Orlando is going to have to decide which part of their defense, which is very good again, they're willing to compromise to try and give themselves a chance.
So what do you think?
I think it's going to be Celtics in 5 as well. I just don't have enough faith in the Magic's offense beyond one game. I think there will be, like I said, the way I see the series going, there's going to be a 30-point blowout somewhere, like some big blowout win for the Celtics. I think the Magic are going to have a close win somewhere. You know, maybe they win by like 6, 7, 8 points, like they pull away at the end.
Yep.
There's probably going to be a close game somewhere else in this series, maybe like a game 4, game 2, where it's close, and that's going to determine whether this is a 5 or 6 game series. And I find it. I think Paolo is going to have a pretty solid series. He's just really tough to stop. Franz, I think, will have his moments, but like last year, he'll probably have some weak spots too. And I just think generally the Celtics have too much offensive firepower, and the Magic are going to head into their offseason wondering how do we get better at offense, because it's time.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. Like I said before, man, I do like the Orlando Magic. I like Banchero. I like Franz Wagner. You know, a little bit more consistency, a little bit more growth, and some better luck, and like a couple of decent moves. I really thought Orlando was going to be, you know, when earlier this season, I was like, oh, please do not let Orlando finish with the 3rd seed. I don't want to see them in the 2nd round. And then they dropped to a point where I'm like, oh God, they're going to see them in the 1st round. Like, I didn't want to see that either. So it's probably the worst matchup that the Celtics could face. Although I want to give Chicago a little bit of love because they're so crazy. They're the only team that can hang with Boston at the 3-point line. But that's neither here nor there.
The difference, I think, like the difference in this series is there's not going to be much variability. Like Orlando, if Orlando wins, it's going to be, they're going to score low hundreds, maybe a game in the 110s. Yeah. There's no 130-point game in them. Like that's like if we're gonna play that game, like it's Elam ending type thing, you get to 115, 120. Magic aren't catching you. The Magic aren't beating you. Atlanta can get to can score 140 on a random night. The Bulls can score 135 on a random night. The Magic aren't scoring that much on a random night. Now, on a random night, they'll hold you to 95 or to like 102, and that's going to give them a chance to win. That's going to be part of the deal. They're like, the difference is the Magic's floor is just so much higher because of their defense. It's figuring out where their ceiling is. And, you know, I want to just throw this last part out at you. Like, a lot of Magic fans, I think, track the Celtics as well and say the Magic, you know, Paolo and Franz remind people a lot of the Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown pairing and all the questions that they had before they finally broke through and won the title last year. There's a lot of Magic fans who are saying that this season with all the injuries was kind of like the 2021 season for the Celtics when they went from 48-24 to 36-36. Orlando went from 45 and 37 last year to 41-41, or 47-35 last year to 41-41. This is a team that, with the right moves in the offseason, getting healthy, obviously, could be a major player in the Eastern Conference next year. So, like I said, I do think the Celtics are a good measuring stick for Orlando. It's something that hopefully the front office will take note and say, okay, this is where we need to get better to be on the level for the Celtics. And obviously I think these are two teams that'll be competing and, you know, passing each other in deeper playoff rounds moving forward. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship is what I'm saying.
It could be. And you also don't have the, we're recovering from Kyrie Irving phase. So that puts you ahead of the curve. All right. Thanks, man. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody enjoyed this crossover between Locked On Celtics and Locked On Magic. Great conversation. So much. We didn't even get to all of this stuff, but you get the gist. Celtics are probably going to win this series fairly easily, but there are things that could derail them. Much more on this. I've got another podcast for you this week before we head into the weekend. So make sure you're subscribed. It's on every podcasting app out there, whatever your favorite one is, Spotify, Apple, whichever one. Some of the other ones, it's there. So subscribe audio-wise there, or get onto that YouTube page, ring the bell there, click that thing, get notified when I drop a new video. Hop into the comment section, share your thoughts with fellow Celtics fans, fellow everydayers who are with me Monday through Friday. I love every single one of you. I love all the new listeners. I love all you Celtics fans. I'm here to make your enjoyment of the Celtics more fun. So thank you for subscribing, and thank you for sharing the podcast and telling everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here in the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.